We first needed a navigator when we first moved back, and life was really tough. I basically had to find somewhere to live. I had nothing. I had, the suitcase. I had some things being shipped over, but they took quite a few weeks. So, I didn't have anything, and I also was very low on energy looking after Harvey with all of his needs, and by myself. And so I called on, we had a navigator, and she helped basically set up all of the specialist appointments and therapist appointments that we needed to. And so they were making the appointments, they were following things up. When I felt in the early days sometimes people weren't listening or getting back to me, and so they were able to follow that up and address that issue. I did have to make a complaint somewhere at one point, which made me really uncomfortable, but I was able to have my navigator with me. Which I think really helped. Navigation taught me how to help myself, so it gave me the tools and the skills to know what to do, how to handle situations on my own in the future. So it really did, it's sort of like a good toolbox that you can draw on and help yourself in the future. Mm-hmm. Like an example of that is the importance of networking and making contacts and building relationships and knowing where to go when you need help, and also having the strength to make those sometimes difficult phone calls or appointments. It also made me realise that sometimes you do need to ask for additional help. So we've had the navigation process in the early years, but I've also been able to go back to them and call on situations where I'm really not coping or need an advocate with me as well. I believe that they had funding for 2,000 copies initially, and for the first edition. I know that they would really like more, and it is a matter of funding and applying to charities to make that possible. Also about getting the word out there. So the workshops, we've already had one set of workshops over 5 weeks in the Bream Bay area, and I believe that we're having another one coming up soon locally here in Whangarei that anybody can come to in terms of, geographically. So yeah.
So which organisations would have those?
CC's Disability Action are the ones that put the book together, and so they're the ones hosting it, and I'll be assisting.
In terms of where the booklet should spread, which organisations want this booklet?
Too many to list. I know Plunket have been very active. They've been telling, from feedback that we've received, they have been handing the book over. We've put it out through play centres and kindergartens, schools. Because the book is a resource and there's so many different organisations listed in it, anybody that's listed in it would probably be interested in sharing it. And I couldn't even tell you how many people.
In the thousands.
But I think it will be life-changing. It's such an amazing resource. I believe that it's inspired other areas throughout New Zealand to want to produce their own that is specific to their area. What I was doing in my own spare time and thinking, well, this is how it worked for me, this is the help that I got. Did you know that there's a navigator out there? If you're really desperate, if you're going through this situation, you too can have the same experience that I can to get you on track. Because sometimes it's just a speed bump and you need someone to help you get over the speed bump, and then it's, smooth after that. So I then sort of figured, that I'd learnt a lot of skills and that I could pass on what I knew to other people who were struggling or didn't even know where to start. They didn't even know what a navigator was or what organisations are out there or what's in the community. So I guess the navigation process encouraged me to share ideas and what worked for us and pass it on. And
so how many people got that book, that resource?
Well, it started off with me just sharing my own ideas, and I was told that I was, one of the families that inspired them to write it. So I was able to take my own, well, they actually asked me, have you got a list of your resources? We know that you have kept a list and you've started making your own. And so they took that and they ran with it and they made it into something wonderful, something that was way beyond what I was able to do one-on-one for clients. So it's nice that, you know, a few of my little ideas or just even helpful tips as a parent have been, I guess, published and now can be spread as a resource throughout the community. Oh, it's still it's for the north, so Northland. Yeah, so I don't know how many people have it so far, but it's just an ongoing process really. And there are workshops being taken on the content of the book as well, so that people can really expand on it and hopefully make their life easier. And that's really heartwarming to know that, you know, people out there can, and I guess the navigation process comes into that. It all started from somewhere, and it's just snowballed into something really good. Yeah. Yes, so I've got, I guess, through inspiration of helping others and seeing what a difference it can make. I mean, I've helped some families that didn't even know that respite existed. They didn't even know that it was there, that they were entitled to it, that it was even possible. And so they were able to get, you know, 20 days a year to change their life and to make their life manageable and to start their own goals and dreams and start doing things that make them a good, to give them the rest that they need to make them a good parent and to continue the lifestyle that they have. From there, the website that I've created for our own specific, the Creedashire support group of New Zealand, the New Zealand Organisation for Rare Disorders have actually sponsored it, and they've got a wonderfully patient man who has been helping me with it. And yes, he's been very understanding. I mean, we've bought and sold houses, shifted, had a death in the family, Harvey's had a couple of operations. There's always some drama going on that has sort of taken me away from it, but I've decided, because I'm pursuing one of my other goals is to finish my business degree, so I've decided that I'm going back to university next year part-time, and that I had a list of things to do that I wanted to do before I went back to uni, and getting the website completed was one of them. So that went live yesterday, and that is basically to benefit the lives of specifically anyone in New Zealand that gets a diagnosis of if their child has Creedashire, or if in fact themselves if they have Creedashire. And it's a source of correct information, and basically there has links to many different support groups and information. So, and also my phone number if they want to actually speak to someone, because it can be quite a lonely journey if you think that you're the only one or you don't know anyone else that has the same condition. So yeah, it shares ideas and experiences, and it's a good way to bounce. If you have a problem, you can go in and ask the group and get lots of different perspectives. My name is Jo, and one of my dreams that I'm pursuing is finishing my business degree. And it started off before my son was born and before we got his diagnosis, and I for a short time thought that my dream was over and that I would never be able to study again, but as it turns out that even as a single parent I've been able to continue my study. And it's hard to know exactly how I'm directly going to use it, because I'm finding as a single parent very difficult to even consider getting back into the workforce with my son's needs. However, I have found that I'm already using the skills in different ways in terms of writing articles or working on a website or supporting families, and it's just really given me a really good business acumen and I guess a different worldview that it is actually helping, and it's hard for me to explain how, but it helps me in anything I pursue really. In the early days when we got Harvey's diagnosis, we had to wait 2 weeks to find out, and yeah, it was the toughest time ever. And then the day that we got the diagnosis, I still remember distinctly, and I can be taken back there in seconds. For about a year, it took me about a year to really get to grips with the diagnosis. I thought about it in terms of every angle I could think of. So I thought about it in terms of my son and how he would manage through life. I thought about it in terms of my relationship. I thought about it in terms of my life. I thought about it a lot in terms of my life. And I guess there was a lot of self-pity for a long time. I gave up on my dreams. I thought my life was over, and I just thought that for the rest of my life it was going to be looking after my son, and that prospect actually didn't seem like a good one. After the first year, when we got Harvey's needs met through specialists and doctors and therapies, and actually when he was 14 months old we moved back to New Zealand, I stopped the pity party, and I really started to dream again and set goals and see that life was good and life could be good. And it was different to what I had planned and what I had envisioned when I was pregnant or when I first gave birth to Harvey, because for a whole day I didn't know that he had a disability. But yeah, I started to dream again. I started to dream of holidays that we could take together, or a life that we could build, or interests that he could take. And what helped is that I saw his personality come through as well. And also I could see what he was capable of, and he was leading the way, so I could see how he was going to develop, because it was a lot of unknown in the early days. I didn't know whether he could walk or talk. I'm not so stressed about that now. He is, I guess if you want to put a label on it, he is non-verbal. He's still learning to walk, but I'm much more relaxed about things. He's leading the way and I'm doing everything I can to guide him. When I started dreaming again, I imagined what kind of life we could have. I imagined a happy life and what it would take. For me, how we got there, basically I used to sit on a beach that was quite local, and I used to take Harvey there because it was an ideal location to get to easily. It was an accessible beach. I could drive right up to the beach and get him in and out of the car easily. And I used to sit on that beach and dream about how lovely it would be to live there. And I used to just, I dreamt about it. Then I was looking through property guides every week, just out of interest, and I came across a house, and I don't know what happened, but yeah, just through a course of events and a very short space of time, we ended up moving to our dream location. It was amazing. And the house was a bit rough and ready and needed a lot of work, but I could certainly see potential, and I could certainly see how we could have a really amazing life living there. And yeah, we're still in the process of achieving that goal, but yeah. So I've broken it down into steps and phases and time frames. I think the first step was getting my mum on board with my dream. She couldn't see this. She didn't have the same vision, and all she saw was a lot of work. And it was a lot of work, but I did a lot of homework and a lot of research, and I had to decide, for the work that it was and the life that I wanted, was it worth the input? And it really was. And I have to say though that we moved in there, and my neighbours came to me once after we'd had a bit of a social gathering, and they came to me a day or two later and told me that they were doing a working bee for them. And after I'd left this gathering, they had all got together and worked it out. They had a plan from start to finish. They'd allocated jobs, they'd got in machinery, they had it all planned out, and they just came to me with this plan and said, we'd really like to do it. It's better that we do it sooner rather than later, so can we start this week, more or less? And and just people started turning up, and they started a couple of days earlier, but most of them turned up on a day and just completely cleared the site, ready to turn it into our dream home, because as it was, it didn't suit us, it wasn't safe for my son, and we had to get the place fenced. So that was phase one, and it's the biggest gift that anyone's ever given me. It's something that I think about and appreciate every day. It is amazing, and it will last a lifetime, and it also shows how lucky I am to be living in my dream location and to have dream neighbours like that as well. The second stage was to get it fenced, so then I had to work out a plan of applying to a charity and what that took, and that's quite a process in itself. Takes a lot of effort, a lot of emotion and a lot of support, so I had to get lots of supporting documents and letters, and we applied to the Mazda Foundation, and they were so touched by our application that the man in charge actually rang me in his own time, because he couldn't wait for us to get the official letter to tell us that we had been successful with our application. So that was pretty amazing. That was just amazing. And so one of my neighbours got the contract to build the fence, and the fence was built. So yeah, basically what we want, what our life is going to look like, a lot of people take for granted. How do I word this?
Yeah, there's a term like a normal life.
Yeah,
So,
it's just, I guess for us to have, I guess what you would call a normal life that other people take for granted, takes a little bit of planning, might take extra things. So for us to be able to have a barbecue and have friends over means that we do have to have a fully fenced property, and it's accessible and it's safe, and there's nothing in the garden that Harvey's going to get harmed by. He's not going to get poisoned by the plants that he puts in his mouth, or gets pricked by prickly bushes or things like that. So everything takes a little bit more effort and a little bit more thought and a little bit more planning, but for what it's worth, it is so worth all of those little steps to get to your dream. I believe in having an easier life, and if there are any barriers, to remove them. So I guess what it was is I took my situation and I've learnt from it, and I've wanted other families to have it easier than I did. And if I could pass on any knowledge to make someone else's life easier, then it's all been worth it. Yeah. So
is it about building more networks, building more support?
Networking was all part of it. Networking is a really important part of it, building relationships. And you may actually, never need someone for years, but then all of a sudden you might have one question, or you might need to apply to them for something, or you might need their support, or you might need a venue. You just never know when. And also, you might be able to help them in return. So, networking and building relationships is hugely important.